Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. I was talking with a client earlier today about a subject that I think is quite important, and I've been having a number of conversations around it. And this concerns what you are being driven by. What is your motivation? And in particular, what it is that you're going to do as you continue to level up. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what's motivating us, how to stay motivated as we continue to kind of move through our journey in finance and business and success, etc., and share a few of my thoughts of something that I think is relevant, first of all, for the individual, for you, but also for society at large. So let's dive in. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the all notification bell. Thank you for your support. If you'd like help, feel free to reach out to us. calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. You can book a call, link in the description below, or send a message to our websites, offshorecitizen.net and offshorecapitalist.com. Okay, so a little bit of context background here. There was a point in time in my life where I was very much freedom focused. Okay, so the idea was obtain financial freedom, essentially be able to have leisure. And I think this is a common starting point for many people. There's a variety of different reasons for this. I think for me it was the desire to travel. I remember I went on a trip. I hadn't taken a vacation in quite a while, like a serious one, and I enjoyed it so much I wrote down a list of 30 different trips I wanted to take, and then I went on one and the list grew by 5, and I was like, holy shit, I need to be able to make quite a bit more money and have a lot more time off to be able to do all of this. So that was something for me. I talk a lot to people. I think some people are kind of overworked and there's like an imbalance, and as a result they want to pay attention to getting out of that, right? Not being burnt out, not being tired, etc. However, as we go, I think that what often happens is you achieve some degree of success. I remember talking to a client, maybe like a couple of years ago or something. He's like, look, like I make enough money that I don't have to worry about the things before, I talk to people pretty regularly. It's like, the dream was to be a millionaire in their 20s, and now they're a millionaire, and now what, right? You get to a certain level. And the thing that I noticed in terms of when you start being able to achieve some degree of leisure is you have to do something with your time. And what do? I've said quite a bit on this channel as well as some other places that I find very frequently I'm disappointed by wealthy people. I find that wealth is wasted on the wealthy, meaning that you accumulate money for what? What often ends up happening is it's just this perpetuating cycle. Someone takes more money and dumps it into the S&P 500. And for what? At some point, what are you saving for? What are you investing for? What is the end goal of all of this? It's when I work with clients, etc., kind of the basic premise is begin with the end in mind, right? What is your objective in relocating? What is your objective in setting up a company differently? What is your objective with all these things? And here we're talking about the objective in life. Now, at some point, that objective can change, right? It doesn't have to be the same. At some point, maybe you think it's wonderful to go and spend a year traveling, or be able to be a digital nomad and live out of your suitcase and go and spend a few weeks or a month in Bali, and then a while in Thailand, and then a while in, somewhere in Europe, and then somewhere in South America, etc. That's great. That's wonderful. At some point, though, it kind of gets beyond that. And I think one thing we've lost in the world today is a sense of moral responsibility. Maybe it's the decline of religion, I don't know, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of very me focus, and it's very much like what makes me happy. There's like this idea of like feelings, happiness, pleasure, etc. And it's very self-centered. I view it as to those who are given much, much is expected, right? And there's a certain obligation that if you're enabled, you're one of the few people who are enabled, and you should be doing something with that. So what do you do with it? And it turns out that that in itself provides this magnificent drive for something bigger. In other words, maybe you get to the stage where you have a business that's, making you far more than you need to live. And, you are fully capable of pushing further, but why? You've already got those things, right? If you want to go further, I think either you just love the game, which is a perfectly legitimate thing. Some people do that and they do really well at it. The other is, there's something that you're doing it for that expands beyond yourself. And as soon as you expand your scope beyond yourself, all of a sudden the amount of resources that you can deploy grow a lot. Now, at the basic level that becomes family and friends, right? But beyond that, I think it becomes looking at what are the things in the world that you believe are important and that you can do something about. So I spend a fair amount of my time today working on projects that I just think are useful. I look out into the world and I don't know, some news story, some event, something will take place, and I think, oh, you know what, that's terrible. Like I don't like that at all. There's this piece of technology somebody should implement. Hey, listen, I don't like how this thing here is built. Somebody should build it better. And as a result, it's like, okay, well, I better go build it better, because if I don't, who will? So I think this is one example. It doesn't have to be the only example. For some people, maybe it's, there's some sort of other thing that you can contribute to. I was mentioning to this client earlier today that my brother is in the field of art, and he was visiting for me a couple of weeks over Christmas and New Year's, and we were talking about how many fantastic artists there are out there. Art being broad, where it could include writing, people in film, people in digital effects, people in whatever, but people who can produce really great stuff, who the limitation for them is money, right? They're not enabled because they don't have financial means. And how great is it if you're the person who can enable that talent? And this, by the way, goes for scientific talent. This goes for talent in terms of things like art. It goes for things to do with medical, etc. This is an example. Is maybe there's something that you see, and it's like there's a certain dawning realization that you can have that, hey, listen, I have the money that I could fund that. I could help contribute to that thing. I'm very interested in a lot of the stuff that's taking place in the medical field, right? A lot of the advances in biotech, a lot of the kind of like personalized health things, stuff to do with anti-aging, etc. I was yesterday at the Dubai Expo, and in the UAE pavilion, they have all these different cool technologies that are being worked on, things like using recycled tires in asphalt, having various different materials for building cement differently, having things in vertical farming, etc. And it's really cool stuff. It's great. And I think to myself, I'd like to fund those things. I'd like to meet with people who are doing really interesting things and to contribute to it. And maybe it's profitable. Maybe it makes a lot of money. Maybe there's something I can help in that regard, because the people who are the scientists behind it often don't have the business savvy, don't have the marketing, don't have the finance background, etc., to make it work in that regard. But regardless, I don't have to be in a position where it has to make money, because I can afford it to just lose money but advance something else. And so I'd be curious to hear from you guys. What are the things that you're interested in that you believe could be done better in the world? And maybe it's simple things, right? Maybe it's like, hey, listen, I'd like to, I don't know, make some cool video for my parents commemorating the life that they've had, and I'm gonna hire some people to go through a whole bunch of footage and photos and make a cool book or make a cool video or something. That's a really simple example. But then there's more comprehensive examples, like getting involved in funding early stage startups to help them. This client was mentioning that one of the things that he really enjoyed was when he kind of transitioned from being in a 9-to-5 job to having his own business, and it was so rewarding and enjoyable. And it's something that he's helped some people with and he'd like to do more of. I have a close friend, client. One of the things he does is he funds people who are just starting up businesses kind of in the space that he is. So he partners with them, he puts up the initial capital, he's there as some sort of an advisor, and he helps to make that work. Amazing. Like, whatever those things are for you, I would love to hear from you. Put them in the comments below that kind of can fuel you to keep going beyond, a certain degree of success where realistically you have your basic wants met. And maybe we'll get some good ideas from each other, and I hope to hear from you very soon.